The human population grew gradually over the majority of our history until new discoveries increased our food supply and lengthened our lives. The number of people on Earth has quadrupled in only a century. Apocalyptic visions of a populous Earth resulted from this. But the 1960s saw a peak in the population growth rate. Since then, as nations have developed industrially, birth rates have plummeted. By the end of the century, it is anticipated that the global population would stabilize at about 11 billion people. But the specifics are hidden by the overall picture. Let's focus on a particular area. Sub-Saharan Africa. 1 billion people called it home in 2019 and they were spread throughout 46 nations. Although if it has slowed down over the previous few decades, its growth rate is still significantly higher than that of the rest of the globe. While some estimates place the population by 2100 at around 2.6 billion, others place it as high as 5 billion. Any civilization would face great challenges as a result of such growth. Yet, Sub-Saharan Africa is also the world's poorest continent. Is Sub-Saharan Africa doomed as a result? Why, then, were the forecasts off by 2.4 billion? It's complex as usual. The concept of Sub-Saharan Africa is fictitious and, in many ways, counterproductive. As far as Ireland is from Kazakhstan, Botswana is from Sierra Leone. They share basically the same things as well. But if I didn't make a few generalizations, this video would last for an hour. For this film, we also spoke with a wide range of scientists, and they had a lot of varied opinions. Primarily on the relationship between poverty and reproduction. Take this information with a grain of salt and refer back to our sources from when we addressed this in greater detail. We have done our best to synthesize our research and what they told us. Now, let's once more enlarge the view to the entire world. Many Asian nations were in a position similar to that of Sub-Saharan Africa a few decades ago. Extreme poverty affected large portions of the population, and there were many new babies being born each year. Consider Bangladesh. The typical lady had 7 children during her lifetime in the 1960s. Only 1 out of every 5 of them would learn to read and write because 25% of them perished before they aged 5. The per capita income was among the lowest in the world, and the life expectancy was around 45. As a result, Bangladesh launched a family planning program based on 3 primary pillars in the 1960s. 1. Education altered women's perspectives. More educated women typically want fewer children and have children later in life. 2. Because they could expect their children to live, parents wanted fewer children as a result of improved healthcare. 3. Contraceptive use increased from 8% in 1975 to 76% in 2019 as a result of field workers bringing contraceptives to even the most remote locations. All of these actions significantly reduced population increase. The typical Bangladeshi woman had 7 children in 1960. And it was only 2 in 2019. The demography and economy of the country were also altered by this. Previously many children passed away before they could make a contribution to society. Things change as fewer children are born and considerably fewer children pass away. Children receive an education and grow up to be successful adults. The government was able to redirect some of its resources away from reducing child mortality and toward fostering economic growth. Bangladesh is anticipated to move from the group of least developed nations to the category of developing economies by 2024. Similar processes have been experienced by other Asian nations including South Korea, India, Thailand, or the Philippines, frequently even more quickly. Investments in health and education caused birth rates to decline, changing the population's makeup and allowing governments to stimulate the economy. Why didn't this occur across the entire of Sub-Saharan Africa? Africa has made significant strides in reducing childhood mortality overall. Nonetheless, education has advanced more slowly in Sub-Saharan Africa than in other regions of the world. However, even though the region's overall contraceptive use has risen since 1990, teens still have a 60% unmet demand for contemporary contraception. It's impossible to provide a simple explanation for all of these factors because they are so intricate. Africa is a large continent with a diversified population. Yet, there are a few key elements. Many sub-Saharan nations went through difficult phases of transition toward independence while still being colonized only a few decades ago. The nascent nations lacked unity and were frequently racially diverse. Certain regions have had a string of civil wars, military conflicts, or unstable governments, making it extremely difficult to develop infrastructure and health services. Africa therefore had a worse position than Asia. Another sensitive topic is foreign aid and how it was used, particularly during the Cold War. But this subject is too intricate to be condensed into a few phrases, so we'll cover it in greater detail in a later video. Furthermore, there are cultural considerations that make discussing family planning in the context of Africa challenging. Opponents claim that attempts to reduce fertility are an infringement on culture and custom. Yet, keeping a problem quiet won't help you resolve it. Not all of these things hold true for all of the regional nations. We're talking about 46 nations here, some of which are in dire need of assistance while others are already thriving and each of which has its own distinct issues. Sub-Saharan Africa might have more than 4 billion people by the year 2100 if population growth keeps up at the current rate. What can be done, then? Really quite a bit. Particularly, aid and investment that supported the development of systems for family planning, healthcare, and education. Even minor adjustments may have a profound effect. For instance, if women receive greater education and wait just 2 years longer to have their first kid. Due to the small generational difference, there would be 400 million fewer people on the planet in 2100, for a total population of 3.6 billion. Every African woman will be able to choose whether to have children if access to education and family planning is made available to her. Birth forecasts drop by 30%, to 2.8 billion people, if families are free to decide how many children they want. This goes beyond theory. There are already instances that give cause for hope. Ethiopia, the second largest nation in Africa by population, has advanced significantly in a short period of time. Since 1990, improved healthcare have resulted in a reduction in child mortality from 20% to 7%. Also, throughout a 20-year period, spending on education climbed by up to 30% of the annual budget. In conclusion, there are significant obstacles ahead, but they can be overcome. Africa's sub-Saharan region needs attention and equitable investment, not sympathy or gifts. It's a region bursting with promise, culture, and resources. If everything works out, we'll have a turnaround akin to the one that has occurred in the majority of Asia during the past 30 years.